Right, another hot take from anyone?
Maui's turn, right?
Yeah. I have one. Yeah, I had to have one take that would definitely probably like it's more against the community but I kind of
Sure.
figured you
The
guys would
best
agree
type.
with it.
Okay.
I feel like now this one I think should lead to a little bit more debate, and it's just that
Okay.
looking at G2, and if I were so I've thought about this kind of more from a like a
My
GMing
lord.
standpoint, and it's
Okay.
like, okay, you have to make one change on G2 to make them better. What would you change?
I can
It
already
would be
guess. Are you ready? He's not going to say Huxley or Nico. What he's going to say, he's going to kick out Nexa and he's going to put Yimpat in there.
no.
No?
It's
Okay,
not Nexa.
I thought I had you.
It's TaZ. It's TaZ.
It's Taz. Holy
Taz.
fuck. Okay, right.
It's TaZ. It's easily TaZ. I've already talked about TaZ before. I've already talked about TaZ
All right.
before. But if I'm thinking about like 1-for-1 changes that can help a team, especially what we talked about earlier, where it's like the identity of G2 isn't working. Because the thing is that yes, yeah, like as a player, you could probably find some sort of upgrade. Frankly, I don't other than just bringing JKS back, which okay, maybe you could do that. Like that could be the move for 1-for-1 that would actually make them better, but I'm ruling that one out. But I was thinking of other kind of free agents that are out there or people that are benched right now. And like Blame F is a cool idea. Like Blame F is, don't get me wrong, Blame F is a great idea, but he wouldn't fit Nexus spots. I don't think that would really work at all. So I wouldn't really want that. And so if I think about okay, what else is something within G2's wheelhouse, or like what's something in that they could afford, I feel like there's definitely more coaches that are out there that they could actually pick from. And again, like I look at somebody like Saw. I've rated Saw incredibly highly. How he's able to structure and system like put a team together. With what Saw is doing right now with Heroic, is he going to join G2? I mean, I don't know. It puts a lot more pressure on him, but it's just one of those moves where I don't see any reasonable contribution from TaZ in those games versus M80. I was watching quite closely on the what happens if Def calls a timeout. Okay, M80 wins rounds after that, even if they have pistols. When G2 calls a timeout with TaZ, well, one, he didn't even actually use all of his timeouts in a lot of games, and two, it was kind of just like a coin flip. It was like, okay, are they going to win this or not? It didn't really have any real impact. If anything, you could literally just pick up Def from M80, and I think he would be better than TaZ as well.
There's the hot take. It's way backed into the maddest part of the hot take. It's not only like kick Hall of Fame player TaZ immediately from a team, but also fuck it, just put Def from the UK and Valorant in there. Have this fucker go on. Just pop
well, Def on M80 was out calling him on timeout. The timeouts was just he was destroying him on those. I mean, that I would just take from a lot of different people to be the coach over TaZ.
Come on then. There's no way Boomer can
he made sense, and everything was like, everything made sense, and I understand what he was trying to say. Then he said, "Yeah, even Def should just be there," and that I just fucking stopped listening. Like you are, what the fuck, man? It's crazy. Anyway, the thing is, like, you cannot say 1-for-1. That's the thing. Like, if you say 1-for-1, we all know who is going. Right, and also I do agree when it comes to TaZ.
It's the way every take.
Would you also
obviously?
TaZ?
No, he means Huxley. Every take backs in Huxley getting fired.
You mean Huxley?
Say 1-for-1, like that's it. Like it has to be that. Like it has to be. But the thing is, I do understand what you're trying to say. I don't think removing TaZ or kicking him would accomplish what you think it would accomplish. I think it would help, but I don't think it would accomplish what you think. Like. In your head, right? I get what you're saying completely, but the thing is, like this team is, like I said, dysfunctionally. They don't have a direction. They don't know what the future holds. They don't feel like a unit anymore. They used to feel like a unit when JKS was there. It doesn't have to do anything with JKS or Nexus, but just the way they looked back then. At least from the outside and inside the server, they were like playing good. They were confident. They were like, they were getting out of these crazy bad situations, coming out of top, losing 0-1, then going to 2-1 all the time. It was just there, and people would believe it, and you can see that they would believe in that. Now they don't believe in shit. Like they're losing 2-0 to M80. They're losing like all these games. Like they barely made it to the playoffs over the same team. It's just removing TaZ. Obviously, he's not like really doing anything crazy there, like at all. Removing him would help definitely getting somebody more experienced, somebody better who can rally up the troops, who can organize the things, who can build up a system that can work, whatever the fuck, right? But like the thing for me, obviously, besides the Huxley, I'm gonna go say something wild. That's gonna go like on top of your hot take. I don't think Nico and Hunter should play together anymore.
I mean, all I'm gonna say is technically neither did Nico up until 1 second before that contract had to be signed. Oh, I do notice, by the way, everyone missed that detail of that move. Guys, you think he couldn't have told Falcons bring Hunter too? But you notice he didn't. He just tried to join Falcons without him. In fact, it was implied it was Munacy he wanted with him. So I will say, people do still say you can never cut Hunter because Hunter and Nick. It's like that's a story from years ago. As far as I can tell now.
That's not even. No, that was never the truth. Like they wanted to play together, but like they understand what this business is like, what this game is like, what does it mean, right? They're not stupid. Like even there was a rumor, which I think it was true, based on what I understand and know, that Vitality was like about to get Hunter as well. Okay. When Nico was supposed to go to Falcons, and none of this happened. So they have no problem separating each other for like the good of their own careers. That's not gonna affect their relationship, like or something like that. Stupid people would think. Like it would never happen. Just like the reason for that, I think maybe it's time to split them up. Maybe they don't complement each other the way they thought it would be happening, right? Maybe it's better for both of these careers to go separate ways. Doesn't really matter who stays, who goes, but to go like in different teams, basically not to play in the same team, for both of them to kind of progress and get what they need to get. Because we saw Hunter, like, yes, he has terrible maps, he has like terrible ratings, but we also saw him carrying some games as well. Like the skill is still there. I know the work ethics is there. Like he's not like disappeared, but maybe something, like I said, it's a dysfunctional team right now. That was like dismantled piece by piece by some behind the scenes things, right? Probably. And the thing is, like, it's just right now it's all affecting that. And like Duncan said about like Ten Hag and everything in Manchester United, like they are the team that's Manchester United. Like they need to be in the conversation for the highest placing on every event. Especially when you have those players, especially when you have Munacy, right? And Nico. Obviously, Manchester United doesn't have the caliber of Munacy and Nico in their own team, but it's still the winning culture. It's still the history, the fans, the all things like considered, and the money they have on top of everything, right? So it needs to be like that right now. What the solution for G2 is, I have no fucking clue, and I don't even care at this point. But the thing is, like, just removing TaZ might help a little bit, but in the long run, it will just stay the same.
Put it this way, I'll also try not to make every reference a fucking English football reference. It's about, it's just going to be like, brilliant. Okay, so when do the Europeans stop talking? Like, so what I'll do is I'll say on this one, since I used Manchester United already before, right? I'll do two references. I'll do a football one and an NBA one for Maui. So actually, I guess the analogy here for the TaZ move would be this, right? First things first, disclaimer: I am incredibly biased in favor of TaZ because I do think he is one of the greatest like figures to ever be in Counter-Strike, literally at all. Not even just as a player. Look, he was a very great player in 1.6. He was a good player in CS2. But I mean, as a figure, like, it's the reason I once wrote a column. You can probably find it on the internet still about TaZ's heart, and the reason I actually was sad that VP broke apart is because he was the first person who had to go. And if you don't know, Neo was like the hands who were doing the boxing and shooting the guns, but the heart of that team was TaZ. That was the guy who had the unbeatable like fucking charisma and the never say die attitude, and could somehow, he used to do this shit where he was like delusional in the best possible way. Like he would think they were better than like Get Right and Forest's teams and Mark Love and all. And by the way, they weren't, but that insane belief that you were better meant they could sometimes upset them and take a trophy or a major from them. One of the reasons this team won all those majors is this guy had this insane drive. Now, I want to believe so badly that's going to happen as a coach. I even see why G2 of all teams thought to bring this guy in. Like, we're a bit lackluster now. People have lost their mojo. Tell you what, bring in the guy who's essentially like the ultimate fucking, like, the essence of the spirit you want to fight for things. What you'd want G2 to be. Now, I will say, though, the reason why I won't protect him completely and say he can't be fired, though, it's a bit like the point before, but I'll use a different team and I'll use an NBA one also. I'll give you another example. Another team that has a lot of recent heritage in the last 20 years and has the money to be great and should be is Chelsea Football Club, KaZad. Cole Palmer is like one of the best players in the whole Premier fucking league. This guy's like fucking caning goals in all. He's like tied for the most goals in the league. But the reason they're nowhere close is because they pissed away all that money they have. They haven't got like a manager who always gets it done. He kind of bottles it a little bit. And so, again, it doesn't matter if they're fifth or sixth. That isn't good enough when you have that money and that player in that situation. You're supposed to live up to the legacy of, like, you can win a Champions League. You can be in the team. You should be in the three-man hunt for the fucking title right now. It's a two-man hunt now. I'm a Liverpool fan. Fuck it. It's gone. It's Arsenal versus fucking Man City. And here's the analogy for Maui, right? Even though every fan's going to tell you otherwise, the Mavericks will not be winning the NBA championship this year, Maui. In fact, I'll be surprised if they make the fucking conference finals. But I'll tell you what, I would say you have to at least say fucking that Doncic is a contender for the best player in the world and one of the hardest carries in the game. So if you have that player, same concept. Shouldn't you be contender for the championship? Like, if you're anyone except that guy, isn't your job on the line? If you're the coach, if you're the GM, if you're the fucking second and third best players, don't you have to ask yourself, are you doing enough? So I will say this, if you're TaZ, right? I don't want you to be fired or replaced, but you did this to yourself, mate, because as we pointed out, and my own friends did this, Henry G did it as a GM, Moses did it as a coach, you couldn't take the fucking small job, like the analogy given on the last episode about Bayer Leverkusen and fucking Alonso. You couldn't take the small job, show you're sick, and then work your way up after essentially like earning your status. You had to take the biggest job in the game that was available. And so when you do that to yourself, I'm going to give you a little bit of extra time. But I'll tell you what, if you don't produce the results, even if the players are failing, you're going to get fired. That's the way this game works. And it's the harsh reality of the fucking sport. And so if we're going to be fair and say that people I don't like who should be fired, well then eventually, TaZ, you have to be in that mix too, because unless you can work your magic, why are you here? I'm just going to say it. Why are you here at that point in time?
Absolutely, it goes for everyone, not just TaZ in that team, not just like the Chelsea coach or anybody else. It's the way it works right now,
Yes.
right? But he made a mistake by going into the highest, like the hottest hottest seat in the fucking game. Is the G2 coaching, like, seat, right? Because everybody expects you to win titles immediately, not like in 6 months, not in 3 months, instantly to become better. And if you don't do it, they're gonna point fingers, and that's your own fault for taking that job. Like, you could have gone into some sort of like a smaller team, smaller org, get your like things like in order, and then move up. And there you go. You mentioned Saw, for example, right, Maui? He started in nowhere. He started in ends, right? With this like lineup, whatever it was. They built it through. He built up his name. Now he took a way better job, like on paper, right? With more paid job in Heroic, trying to build something up there. He has a great IGL. He's like has a solid team. They're missing I guess a world-class opera right now, but still they're doing something. They play the major. They play these events. They're not like super good, but they're not bad team. They're top 10 team right now. You can say it right now, and that's a short period of time, right? He gathered some good. This is what TaZ should have done as well. Team like Ants, team like whoever like in that tier, and just go from there, grind your way up. He's not a stupid guy. There's also a problem. Like there's also a problem, Duncan, because the way you and me see TaZ from the past, the figure that he is, right? Like the charisma, the trophies, the heart and soul of that like Polish squad and everything. I don't think this new generation, they don't see it like that. You think Monesi sees it like that?
Oh, I have to say, by the way, I've actually heard it implied. I don't know if he said it himself, but like a lot of the newer people, they didn't follow the game like that. So some of them, for real, are just sort of like, I didn't really watch you, to be fair. So they don't, they don't see him as that figure, I'm afraid. They don't. They weren't there.
For us, he's the person. Like for me, he's the person. When I was like starting like looking seriously into Counter-Strike, the person on the fucking screen that I was looking at, like, what the fuck? On the stage, they're winning. Look at the way that he's playing. Look at this. They were, when I started playing against them, they were literally unreadable. Like, it was so difficult to counter them, almost impossible. You can't find a gap in their game. Like, that was their biggest strength. Like, but this is a different fucking job. This is different. This is different world right now. And you need to fucking be in it. And it's not going to adapt towards you. You need to adapt towards that. So that's what he needs to think about. I don't know if he has, how much time he has in actual G2 right now or what's going to happen. But right now it's not looking good for any of them.
Here's the analogy I'd give you. I don't even think it's impossible he becomes a great coach, but the problem is you don't get to learn on the job. Like it's like if someone had talent at driving, but they'd never driven in Formula One, Kasad, you don't put them in the best car. They're not gonna win the first year. You do exactly this. You put them in the 8th best car. They get like a few times they come 5th and one podium place 3rd, and then later 3 years down the line when you've shown they can do everything, they can do the pit stops, they can work with the team, the construction thing. Then they get the spot in fucking Mercedes or Ferrari. That's when you do it. Because that's why I say, unfortunately, the reason why I'm not being harsh here is TaZ chose to put himself in this position, like my friends did. By the way, I had to eventually say Moses should be fired because you looked at the results. It's like, bro, doesn't matter how many cool beers we had and how many awesome chats we had on a podcast. The job right now, you're fucking up other people's career if you aren't the best coach for this team. That's just the reality. That's why if people think we're hating, no, we're actually trying to like defend like essentially the people who do their jobs in these teams.
People don't get it that way. They just see like, oh, yeah, just toxic and shit. Like they don't see it that
Yes.
way. Also, like the best example in English football is Arteta, right? He was the
Yes.
fucking assistant manager to Pep Guardiola for years.
Yep.
For years, sitting next to him, learning, and now he is leading Arsenal into this era of success, right? Playing the quarterfinals Champions League, fighting for the title after like between all of these like super rich teams and shit, right? And it's like that's the way to do it. You know, that's the proper way to do it. But you know, sadly, many people don't understand that, so it's just whatever.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.